Clap. Welcome to Screen Quest, a podcast where a fellowship of film lovers and armchair movie experts plays film roulette. I'm one of your hosts, Chris Waterman, joined by May Finch.
Hi, everyone.
And Mr. Will Rotondi.
Hey, what's going on?
Today's episode, we're talking Singin' in the Rain, another musical. Again, promise we didn't plan this. This is just what the cards dealt us. And we will be giving you some Oscar predictions. So in lieu of our side quest and opening segment, we're going to kind of smush that into the Oscar predictions, which are airing this Sunday. We're recording this on Thursday, March 9th, and the Oscars are airing this Sunday, the 12th. So by the time you hear this episode, you'll know the winners. We don't currently now. I promise, again, no trickery here. It'll be kind of fun to see where it all lands. So we'll give our predictions for the main acting and supporting acting categories, director, and best picture. So without further ado, guys, number one, or our first category here, and I'm just reading this right off the Oscars official website, actor in a leading role. Our nominees are Austin Butler for Elvis, Colin Farrell for The Banshees of Inisherin, Brendan Fraser for The Whale, Paul Mescal for After Sun, and then Bill Nighy for Living. So what do you guys got for this one? What are we thinking?
I forgot Elvis came out in the past year. I felt like that was like a 2019 movie for some reason.
Yeah, absolutely.
May, I'm going to let you take it first, unless you want me to.
Okay.
No, I mean, you're good. I just didn't want to interrupt you.
No, it's hard because like I haven't seen all these movies. So like I love Bill Nighy, but I have no idea what Living even is.
Don't we all question that?
Who knows?
I mean, really, yeah, exactly. You ask an excellent question, right? Does he find out?
I'll just have to watch the movie, I guess, based off of this. But I don't know. I would say it's between Brendan Fraser and Colin Farrell, most likely, just based off of buzz I've heard for The Whale and for The Banshees of Inisherin. And if I have to pick one, which based on Chris's face, I do, I would go with Brendan Fraser. I think it's his comeback year.
Yeah, I have to go with the same, truthfully. I feel like just because of so much buzz that's gone on for it, for the film itself, for his performance, for the fact that he's back and kind of a big deal again, which is amazing because I thought he was cool back when he was cool before. Yeah, I just kind of hope it is. I'm going to have to go with Brendan.
So I hope it is, but I think it's going to be Colin Farrell for Banshees of Inisherin. I'm not basing that off of much other than sort of like the Golden Globes sometimes, but not always, are an indication of how the Oscars are going to go. I feel like he's got a lot of momentum. That movie has a lot of momentum. The Banshees of Inisherin. I mean, I really liked his performance in that. That's one of the ones that I have seen on this list. I have not seen The Whale, but I do hope it's Brendan Fraser. So that's kind of my two-pronged answer, but I think it's going to be Colin Farrell. So lock it in. Next up, we have actor in a supporting role. And our nominees are Brendan Gleeson for The Banshees of Inisherin, Brian Tyree Henry for Causeway, Judd Hirsch for The Fabelmans, Barry Keoghan for The Banshees of Inisherin, and then Ke Huy Quan. Hopefully I'm saying your name right, buddy. I'm so sorry. I've never actually heard it said out loud. I am reasonably sure about the first and last name anyway. It's just that middle part. But that is for, of course, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. What do you guys think for Best Supporting Actor? We're just going to keep on rolling here and hope that everything worked out.
You know what? I'm a sucker for Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. So I really hope that Ke Huy Quan gets it. And that's all that I have to say. I just really hope that he does.
I feel the same way. I am a bit biased in that I actually haven't seen any of the other films that have nominees for this category. But yeah, I mean, I hope Everything Everywhere All at Once sweeps. So I hope Ke Huy Quan gets it.
Yeah.
With you both. Hope he gets it. I think he will get it. I think that's it seems like a safe bet. I feel like this film is going to do very well. It has probably the most buzz, the most momentum behind it. Yeah, I think it's time for Short Round to get an
Oh,
Oscar.
that's right.
All right, next category: actress in a leading role. We have Kate Blanchett in Tar, Anna de Armas in Blonde, Andrea Riceborough in To Leslie, Michelle Williams, The Fablemans, Michelle Yeoh, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. I'm going to say Kate Blanchett is going to take it, although I want Michelle Yeoh to take it. I feel a bit like this might be like the one category, like sometimes like you'll see like votes split. So like it's a weird psychological thing where like the people want to recognize more than just like one movie, and I think like the acting category is sometimes where that happens. So even though I want Michelle Yeoh to win, I feel like Kate Blanchett has a good shot here.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page as you are, and I really hope that I don't know. I'm still holding out, man. I think that Michelle Yeoh can get it. And truthfully, the two of them are extraordinary, so it would be phenomenal either way. But I really hope Michelle Yeoh gets it.
I'm mostly in agreement. I also think Ana de Armas could be in the running. I know Blonde was like kind of controversial, but it was also like very much Oscar bait. So
Yeah.
and Anna's just a great actress. So I could see either like any of those three winning it. I do feel like there is so much support for Michelle Yeoh, and like she's already won a lot of awards this season, that like it will probably be her, because I think the Oscars don't want to deal with the backlash of it not being her. And they get a lot of good press if it is her.
Yeah, it's very true. Supposedly they've diversified their voting, like who votes in these things. Years ago now, I don't know what, 6-7 years ago, like Oscar So White, like all that. Because it was a bunch of
Yeah.
old white dudes primarily that like would vote, or like people that like by their own admission had only watched like 3 out of like the 10 movies that were, and like they're still voting. And it's like, I feel
Wow.
like you should have to watch everything in a category to vote in that category. And I guess that would be an honor system thing, but like you should abstain. That's just my opinion. But
We watch
what do I
at
know?
least 4 films a month, and we just do a podcast. Like,
Yeah, I know, right?
Nice. You had one job, guys. Come on.
With great power comes great responsibility and all that. So, all right, our next category is actress in a supporting role. We have Angela Bassett in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, Hong Chow in The Whale, Carrie Condon in The Banshees of Inisherin, Jamie Lee Curtis, Everything Everywhere All at Once, and Stephanie, I'm sorry, I'm probably going to butcher this again, but Hugh, and Everything Everywhere All at Once. I'm so sorry that I've butchered your name.
Now this is the part where I feel bad because I mean, besides Everything Everywhere All at Once, like I haven't seen the other movies that are here. I thought Stephanie was really good too. And I could just, you know what? I'm just gonna go that route because I love the movie so much. I thought she was great. And I this is probably this is the only film that I saw, so that's how I'm voting. So
Way to go.
I'm gonna join the Oscar.
In your defense, you're not, you don't have like the responsibility of picking a winner. You're just predicting, so that lets you off the hook a little bit.
But truthfully, when I first looked at the list, I was hoping that Angela Bassett would get it, just because I think she's a great actor. So that would be, if I had to choose, besides being so biased for Everything Everywhere All at Once, I would have to go for her.
Cool. How about you, May?
This is a difficult category for me. There's so many amazing actresses here. I will also have to say, well, I want it to be Stephanie Hsu, because that was a phenomenal performance in Everything Everywhere All at Once. And I know that like she's not necessarily gotten the recognition she should have gotten so far. I'm not going to name names, but certain awards should have gone to her that did not. But like, given she's kind of been snubbed by a lot of things, I think that Jamie Lee Curtis is probably going to get it. And I love Jamie Lee Curtis, don't get me wrong, but I do think in this film, like, her performance was not quite as strong as Stephanie Hsu's.
She did the easier job, I feel like. Not to say that her job was easy.
Are you saying
like,
taxes are easy, Chris?
No, I just mean she gets to kind of be like,
they are not.
Perhaps that's unfair. I was gonna say that she was silly the whole time, but that's not true, because she does have like some really good bits in some of the alternate universes, with like her and her wife and the hot dog. So I take that back a little bit, but still, I agree. I think that Stephanie's got the stronger performance, and I'm with you. I'm going to be optimistic and say she gets it.
I could also see Jamie Lee Curtis, like, if she got it, I could also see her just like standing up and saying, I don't really feel like I got this. This should go to like, because she's been so supportive of the entire cast. Like, hands down, anytime somebody compliments her about that, she's like, no, I'm only here because of them. Like, they're the amazing people that made this movie. So I could just as easily see her being like, yeah, this is nice, but this doesn't belong to me.
That would be nice, but yeah. All right. Second to last category here, we have directing. So up for nomination is Martin McDonagh for The Banshees of Inisherin, Daniel Kwan and Daniel, Scheinert for Everything Everywhere All at Once, Steven Spielberg for The Fabelmans, Todd Field for Tar, and then Ruben Östlund for Triangle of Sadness. May, you get to start this one off.
Again, I wanted to go to the Daniels, especially because so much of what I loved about Everything Everywhere All at Once was the creative directing choices that they made. And also just what they did with such a low budget and like small filming window. But I feel like if they don't get it, it probably would be Martin McDonagh, but we'll see. I think the Daniels could definitely be the winners.
So if they get it, like, is it one or the other?
No.
Is there like a joint thing going here, or
it is just like the Coen brothers, kind of.
Yeah.
I think the Coen brothers were kicked out of the Directors Guild of America. Like, they really give a shit, because they refuse to. If you notice, a lot of the early Coen brothers movies, like, it says either Joel or Ethan, and they just alternated credit when in fact it was both of them, because they wanted to stay in the guild. And I think around the time No Country, or maybe right before that came out, they were like, fuck all that. Like, we don't care. Like, kick us out of the guild. We have enough clout that, like, who gives a shit? And now they appear as co-credit, and the Daniels obviously do something similar. So I think they would both be eligible since they both have directing credit.
Sweet. Okay. Yeah, because I would have said it's not copying necessarily, but I would say the exact same thing that May said, which is I would hope it's them, but I also feel like Martin McDonagh could very easily, just based on everything that I've heard about that film and just his previous work, that I feel like it's probably going to go that direction. Although who knows? Tar might also pull it in there too. So
I think you're both bang on. This could be another area where they split the vote, give director to like one movie and best picture to the other for like that dual recognition. I have a feeling Martin McDonagh is going to walk away with this, and like, it would be deserved. I really like The Banshees of Inisherin. It's a goddamn bummer at times, but it is really, really like a wonderful film. I liked it much better than Three Billboards. And just like the setting of Inisherin is really cool. It being a period piece, and just the performances that he got out of everybody, including Barry Keoghan, who was outstanding in that supporting role, I think is pretty excellent. So that is going to be my pick, I think. So Martin McDonagh takes it for best director, which brings us to best picture. the most nominees because they updated their guidelines a while ago, a few years ago now. I think you can have up to 10. So nominees are All Quiet on the Western Front, Avatar: The Way of Water, The Banshees of Inisherin, Elvis, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Fablemans, Tar, Top Gun Maverick, Triangle of Sadness, and Women Talking. So that's a lot. I am going to say Everything Everywhere All at Once. This feels like a gimme. I'm going to be really disappointed if it's not, but that's my very easily decided answer there.
I can't believe that Top Gun Maverick is actually in this category, because part of me, this is, and I'm not saying this is my final answer, but there's a part of me that's actually really excited that that film is here. And that's just the part of me that grew up in the 80s and the 90s. That's just like, hell yeah, I love these movies. I'm stoked. I'm stoked that
It
the remake of
deserves
Star
to
Wars
be there,
is
though.
on.
Like
I know. Yeah.
I say that completely unironically. Like it is an excellent movie, and not just
It
like a
is.
good sequel. It's a good movie. Like there are sequences of that movie that I think of like at least once a week. My favorite
Yeah.
of which is like they can like Maverick shows them it can be done like that. You know what I'm talking about if you've seen the movie.
Yeah.
That is just an excellence in like film editing and like, you know, sort of like script writing and putting in something that is amazing to like bridge your second and third act. But
Oh yeah. I've seen that movie more times in the last few months than I watched like any other movie in like the last year. So
I don't
I
think it
mean,
has a
like,
snowball chance of hell of winning, but I just love that it's
no, it's
there.
not. Yeah, I'm stoked. I was like, yeah, just to think about that. So yeah, no, I just wanted to say that for the recognition that I thought that it was nice to finally have like a feel good film end up on that category. But I will also say I absolutely hope 100% it's Everything Everywhere.
Yeah, I don't know, because I feel like there's actually a fair number of strong films for the Best Picture. I've obviously, I think Everything Everywhere All at Once is the best picture of the year. But as we've been talking about, Banshees of Inisherin's very strong. I've not seen these two, but I've heard really good things about All Quiet on the Western Front and Triangle of Sadness. And obviously, Tar is very kind of like Oscar material through and through. So I don't know. I could see this one having a surprising result, but I don't know what the surprising result would be. And my expected result is Everything Everywhere All at Once.
I don't know why I feel so confident, but this just seems like such a lock to me. I don't know. Like, it's pretty rare. I think like the type of movie it is, how early it came out last year, and like the surprise of it all, and then it just had so much time to build steam, and like maybe recency bias though will hurt it. I don't know. Like, I feel like there's some you could eliminate, like Avatar, Elvis. Like, I don't feel like those have any kind of chance.
Man, if Avatar wins, I'm
Rigged, man.
done.
I mean, James Cameron's got a ton of money, and like I love that movie. Like it was a great time, but I was actually very surprised to see it on this list. I think it's probably partially because you could have so many nominees. I would have put RRR over there. Like that's my personal snub for a lot of these categories. I think it's only in like best song or something like that. Which hey, fair, because it's an awesome song, but yeah. All right. Well, those are locked in. We will see how right we are. Time to pivot. Let's go over to Singin' in the Rain. So, Singin' in the Rain is a 1952 musical co-directed, speaking of co-direction, by Stanley Donen and Gene Kelly. It chronicles the rise of the talkie, so motion pictures with sound, and is about Don Lockwood, who is a popular silent film star who has a fateful meeting with Debbie Reynolds.
Kathy Selden.
Yes, Kathy Selden. Thank you. Of course, we have Don Lockwood's best friend, Cosmo Brown, who's one of my personal favorite characters in the movie. He's played by Donald Connor. And essentially, the film is about the studio. I don't know if they explicitly say. I know like R.F. Simpson is the name of the studio head, but it's essentially supposed to be Warner Brothers, dealing with trying to stay relevant and making their first sound picture in the middle of the production of a silent movie. They decide it's going to be a talkie, and oops, their main like silent film star, Lena Lamont, has shall we say, an abrasive and unrefined voice that is not going to work for the picture. Of course, as in all musicals and rom-coms, there is a lot of singing, a lot of dancing, and the primary, I suppose, conflict in it is the fact that Kathy is playing second fiddle to somebody who's a complete petulant brat and eventually wants to have her own big break. Of course, things all work out. The film comes out, it's a huge smash because Kathy has doubled as the voice for Lena Lamont. At the end of the film, Lena decides to be horrible and try to ruin Kathy's career, and the principals come together to reveal the charade, which I guess you can infer from the movie ruins Lena's career and then makes Kathy, of course, a big star opposite of Don Lockwood. So that is Singin' in the Rain in a nutshell. As I said at the end of last week's episode, it is my personal favorite like classic Hollywood musical. I don't think anything comes close to it, but I want to hear about your general impressions. So maybe because you've never seen it before, I'm going to start with you.
I loved it. Like, I was surprised. I was also a bit surprised by some of the dialogue. Like, I know there's an early line where someone is like suffering through a scene and they're just like, I'm just going to go kill myself.
Yeah.
And I was like, that feels like very modern humor.
Yeah.
Ahead of its time. But it's very witty, and the dancing was very energetic, and I liked it. It's quite different from modern dance. It's also my first time seeing Gene Kelly on screen, and this is not a hot take. In fact, this is like a 70-year-old take, but he has the best smile of any actor I've ever encountered. So yes, I enjoyed it.
It's very magnetic personality. I've actually never seen his other big film, which is An American in Paris. That was a musical that preceded this one. But I was reminded like, I should probably go back and check that out. But I'm very, very happy that you enjoyed it. It's one of those movies, I feel like it's hard to have a bad time like watching this just because it is pretty jovial and funny.
There was one scene that dragged for me, which I'm sure we'll get to.
We can get into the nitty gritty, but which one is it? Just out of curiosity.
So I was really enjoying the start of it, but when Cosmo is trying to cheer up Dawn early in the film, and he does this very long, like vaudeville dance number by himself.
Oh, make him laugh.
There's like solid 2 minutes where he's just throwing himself around a stage, not singing or anything. He's just throwing himself around a room.
Yeah. Yeah. That is true. Like towards the end of that number, like it is kind of odd, like how long it lingers. I think that's fair. Will, this is a repeat watch for you. What do you make of Singin' in the Rain? Do you like it more this time around? The same? How do you feel about it?
I still like it. As much as I liked it before. I've seen it probably about 3 or 4 times. Definitely in college. That was like an intro to film selection, I think. And it's a lot of fun. Like you guys, mirroring what you guys have said, it's a lot of fun to watch. The characters are not too like, it doesn't take itself too seriously. It's not overly complicated in its plot. It's just meant to, have a good time and have kind of a silly premise with goofy characters that everything turns out okay for ultimately, except for probably one, but that was sort of the point. So
yeah, I think one of the things that it's interesting to like contextualize this would have been about 25 years from when the film is set when it came out. So we're so far removed that you're like, oh, like it must have been quite the like look back at like the history of film, like pretty recent. So you think about 25 years ago for us, right? That's right at the end of the 90s. So it would be like, I don't know, marveling at like the effects of the Matrix is probably a good analogy, since we just watched that, and looking back and doing or setting a film during that time. Now, of course, the innovations are arguably greater from silent to this, but you like think about the audiences that would have seen this would have had very vivid memories, probably a large part of the audience, of what silent films were like, and would have really been laughing along with the pantomime and the silliness and all the kind of stuff that they make fun of. And I think that metatextual backdrop is what I really enjoy about this movie. There's a lot of in jokes for the business, and I think that makes it more enjoyable for somebody like me who just like eats this stuff up, film production and film history. But the performances are all excellent. They just don't make them, and when I say them, performers, like they used to, in terms of like the amount of things that you had to be able to do well, like singing, dancing, and acting. I think this is a wonderful celebration of sort of like how many boxes you had to tick to be considered successful or bankable. It's one of my favorite, it is my favorite classic Hollywood musical, and I think it might be just like my favorite musical period, even if you take into account the modern ones. So speaking of the music and the musical numbers, I want to hear what your favorite number is. So Will, do you have a standout like sequence or musical number that you enjoy in this film?
But what's the when Don is trying to do was it elocution? And so when he's trying to learn how to speak correctly, for all these talkies now, and it's like
Moses supposes.
Yeah.
It's almost like a hip hop song in a way. Like,
yeah, right. You could spin some sick beats with that, man. But I really just I like when he and Cosmo goof around and dance together. I think that to me, and then just like the silliness of it after having listened to Lena attempt to say the word cons and failing epically at that, which, no offense, completely understood. Some accents are very difficult to work around, so it's all right. But that's like a standout scene I remember, is her attempting to do that, and then transitioning over to them, and that whole dance number I thought was great. So that would definitely be, if I had to choose one off the top of my head, I'm going to go with that, whatever the name of that was.
I think it's called Moses Supposes. And worth noting that Gene Hagen, who played Lena Lamont, actually has a really lovely voice. So in the scene where they're saying the romantic line and they're overdubbing, that's actually her voice, like supposedly Debbie Reynolds' voice. Like when you're watching the playback, that's actually what her voice sounds like, which I think is it's nice that they weren't making fun of somebody. That was one of my concerns the first time that I saw this, was like, oh man, did they just pick somebody with like a horrible, like screechy, scratchy voice and then say like, oh, like it'll be fun. People will laugh, but like, you'll be it'll be entertaining for. No, that's not it at all. She based it off of a few different people's performances. I think I read Judy Holliday was one of the actresses, specifically a character in Born Yesterday. But how about you, May?
That would be like casting the Phantom from Phantom of the Opera based on looks. Like,
yeah, right? Nice.
And it's 50s Hollywood, so like
could go either way. Yeah.
I love the dancing. I don't think I had seen such energetic dance numbers, really. Gene Kelly is just a fantastic dancer. So is Donald O'Connor. So I think I probably enjoyed. It's going to be a tie between the flashback to their vaudeville days, where they're like just jumping off of each other and doing crazy things, and when they're singing with Kathy Selden in the house and they're doing Singin' in the Rain for the first time. That's a really nice scene, and they all have they have good chemistry together on screen, and also it's kind of an important like turning point in the movie itself, so it comes together really well.
Are you talking about Good Morning when they're like they do the couch
Yeah.
like yeah
Mhm,
yeah yeah
mhm, yeah.
yep. That's again like just so much joy like in this movie, which is kind of funny because one of the other things that like it's sort of well documented and known is that um Gene Kelly was an absolute bear to work with. Like he was hard on everybody, but in particular Debbie Reynolds because she wasn't classically trained in the way that some of the other people were. And Donald O'Connor, being a good guy, would sometimes step in to be the punching bag to alleviate some of that tension. But yeah, well documented, she fled the set crying many a times because Gene Kelly just like would get frustrated and lose his temper. Doesn't come across at all. So they hide it very well. But sorry if that spoils anybody's enjoyment of the movie. But I always find stuff like that fascinating. For me, it's probably, I know you don't like the extended flailing, but Make Him Laugh is quite impressive. He ended up in, I think, bedridden for like 3 days from exhaustion after that because he had to film it so many times, like doing those flips. And he was a heavy smoker. And yeah, so apparently just wore him out, which I can believe watching it. But I think Broadway Ballet at the end has so many arresting, one of which is actually behind my co-host Will there. If you're watching the video version. If you're not, it is Sid Charisse, who's got $1 million legs, like by 1950s money, sticking her leg into the air with his hat kind of, balanced on the edge of her foot. And yeah, I love that whole, there's so many stunning bits to that sequence. It's hard to pick, but the conveyor belt, the wonderful flowing scarf and the wind and all of that, like it's a showstopper. And I love how they tie it into the film with it being sort of his pitch of what they could do in the Dancing Cavalier. And it's really just a great excuse to have like nonsensical, like just pull out all the stops, like sets from different places and costumes and all of that. And it really doesn't make much sense if you don't have that backdrop. But yeah, that's, I think, probably my favorite for sure. Maybe not the best song, but the best sequence for sure.
Yeah, I'll
All
say
right.
like the music didn't stand out all that much to me. Like the dance numbers were incredible, but besides a couple of the songs like Singing in the Rain and Good Morning, like I don't know, they weren't that catchy to me. But that's probably my 21st century tastes showing.
I'm with you for sure. I think that like yeah, for the most part, the vaudeville one is entertaining because it's kind of intercut with what he's saying was their beginnings, and like the reality of it is it's a great little bit of, I don't know if you would call that like, it's not really dramatic irony, but like I don't know, it's a nice little bit of tension there anyway. But I agree, I think most of the songs are just okay. Yeah, so I lost my train of thought. I was going to say something and it's escaped me now. Oh well. So how about characters? Like, does any like who are your favorite characters? For me, it's Cosmo. Like, I'll like just go first if you need some time to think about it. I love Donald O'Connor's comedic timing. Marianne used the best word possible. She was like, he has got the best impish like grin and demeanor ever. And I love the mischief like that. I feel like I vibe with that guy so much. I'm like, I'd love to have a beer with this guy. I bet you he'd be a lot of fun. But I appreciate him as sort of the comedic foil and all around best bud to Don Lockwood. So how about you guys?
So I didn't realize that Rita Moreno was also in this musical until I checked IMDb. And I wish I'd given her more of a role because, like, Zelda's just a snitch, and that's like all she does.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, it's hard to pick a favorite. Kathy Selden is great. I like that. You know, there's a tendency when you have conflict between two women to paint it as like the kind of angel devil dichotomy, right? And I liked that Kathy kind of comes out swinging for Dawn. And like they have a very antagonistic relationship from the start, and I think Debbie Reynolds like
Yes.
sells that pretty well. So yeah, I have a soft spot in my heart for Kathy. But Don Lockwood just is amazing, so I'm gonna have to go with Don.
Nice. I'd have to go with Lena, man. I think she's my favorite, hands down. And it's because, I mean, it is because of how well she does that abrasive voice, but also the fact that, like, even though she's played to seem at first like she doesn't really have anything going on, it's like then she throws a curveball and it's like, oh, actually she is trying to pull something over on everybody at the end and it might work. You're like, damn, no, why are you smart at this? So I don't know. I think just to have somebody who is antagonistic enough and is comedic enough in that respect, I thought she was great. So I'm 100%. She's the most memorable one for me. Like when I think of characters from this film, I think of the dancing, but I definitely think of her character more than anybody else. So
in my family, we still say, I can't stand him. Like whenever that comes up in context in that voice, because of her. Those are all great
amazing.
picks. It's hard to choose. It's a pretty stacked cast with memorable people for sure. Speaking of the title song, I thought it would be interesting to kind of talk about that. So I didn't know the first time I saw this that it did not originate with this film. Kind of like White Christmas, it was a song that existed before this, and they sort of built the film around that as a title, I guess. So I wanted to talk about that particular sequence. I think it's interesting for a lot of reasons. One of which is that Gene Kelly was running 103-degree fever when they shot it, and you would never know. He looks so damn happy and just like on top of the world. And that number is sort of used as a way to have happiness and the making, I guess, lemons with lemon or lemonade with lemons and that kind of thing, because it's pouring rain and you wouldn't know it. And of course the 5-0 comes and tries to rain on his happiness parade like at the end of the sequence. But it is slightly not diminished, but like it's a little bit off-putting every time I hear it because of A Clockwork Orange. I can't enjoy it the way that probably a normal person could. If you've ever seen that movie, you probably know exactly why. If you haven't, it is one of the most disturbing scenes in the film, and Alex is singing that because Malcolm McDowell didn't know any other lyrics to any other songs, and so Kubrick obtained the rights because Warner's was making A Clockwork Orange and it made this. So what do you guys how did you feel about that sequence? Because it is famous, like that image of him sort of leaning on the lamppost and literally singing in the rain is pretty iconic.
Looked like the most realistic representation of rain that I've seen in any film we've watched this year. Or on this podcast, I should say. The year's still young, but the podcast has had quite a few episodes. So yeah.
You are correct, especially compared to what was the worst one? Solaris.
Oh yes. Oh, nice.
We need to have like an official like Screen Quest ranking of Rain.
Of Rain.
Rain and film. The definitive ranking.
Rain Quest. Yeah.
Yeah, well, obviously I agree with you, Will, but I don't know. It was good. It was a good number. I see why it's like gotten meme value or like pop culture value after the fact, but like I don't know, in the context of the film, I don't think it's the strongest number, really. It's good though.
I'm always surprised at how late it comes. Like in my mind, always like because it 5-6 years will go by. I always seem to remember it happening like way earlier, and it's almost I think what is that the penultimate like number essentially. Like I mean, it's very late in the film. After they've sort of solved the problem of what they're going to do with the movie, the movie that they're making in the film, I should say. But, yeah. It almost feels like they're checking the box. Oh shit, we call this Singing in the Rain, so we should probably sing that song now, I guess.
Kind of like when they're trying to go back and fix their own movie, they're like, where am I going to fit this in here? Oh, okay, yeah, we'll do it right there after they kiss. Yeah, that'll work.
Interestingly enough, they had all the musical numbers sorted before they had a plot, which makes a lot of sense
Nice.
when you think about sort of where they are, where they fit in, and some of them feel appropriate to like what's going on, and others are just kind of like, not shoehorned, but like very loosely connected. But that's okay. Like I think given what this movie is about, it's totally fine.
Yeah, I'm still impressed that he was able to dance. Well, feeling sick, and still doing that, but like dance that well in that much rain and being like soaking wet, and he makes it look effortless. So yeah, I think from a stylistic perspective, it's awesome. It's kind of like how I felt when we talked about West Side Story, and I'm like, these guys are, synced climbing over this fence, and I'm like, this is great. And same kind of thing where I'm like, this is really well, you pulled it off really well, and I'm sorry that you felt like crap when you had to do it.
Yeah, so many of those stunts are really good. Like even just when they're synchronized dancing, like the three of them up like stairs and down the stairs and twerk, like man, you just got to imagine the amount of rehearsing, and they make it look so easy to be sick and do that on top of it. Maybe it was karma for yelling at everybody. I don't know.
Right?
That's right. You made Debbie cry too much. Now you got to deal with it. With whatever, well, hopefully it didn't like spread anything. Like if you got a fever, man, hope nobody else got sick from it.
Good
The only
point.
prescription was more cowbell, apparently now. So I do want to address your background here. I think it's amazing that Sid Charisse has, I think, just over 5 minutes of screen time, and was catapulted in just to stardom. And did she say a single word in this film? I think it's all just performance, right? Makes quite
And
the
coin
impact,
flip.
though.
The
Yeah,
coin
as
flip
I say,
says
yeah,
everything.
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah, very two-faced that gangster. In that scene, it's all I could think of.
It kind of felt like the beginning to Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. For a
Yeah,
second, I was like, did he rip this off from Singing in the Rain? Because that would be amazing, and I wouldn't put it past him. But yeah, it was pretty solid because they have like a little opening dance number at the beginning of that film too, and I was like, this seems a little too close to like the little shady dudes in suits all lined up together. I thought if it's not a reference, it's damn close. So I don't know. That to me, I thought was great, and I still like how colorful everything is in that entire sequence.
yeah, no, absolutely. The costumes in general just are,
yeah.
I mean, still, I think, um, just unbelievably detailed and colorful, and just a lot of fun.
Lots of yellow.
Yeah.
Very bright, catches your eyes. A thing I really liked in that scene, and you can kind of see it behind Will, is like the thank you, Will. If you look at like the door, it looks like the like recording symbol on a camera. That was a little small detail I appreciated.
Yep.
Ellie
That's pretty
appreciates
cool.
it too. I don't know if you can hear her.
We can. Thanks for your input, Ellie.
Ask her for her Oscar nominations.
She just keeps saying Paw Patrol for some reason. That's not.
So, kind of the eternal question for this category of Time Machine, where we're watching a film that is what I think at least 50 years old is what we stipulated for our criteria. Does it hold up? Like, do you think Singing in the Rain holds up? It's what, 71 years old now?
100%.
I think it holds up really well. Like I enjoyed it actually, which is something I wouldn't say about a lot of older films.
Why do you guys think that is? Like, I don't have an answer I'm looking for in particular, so I'm sorry if that's how that came out tonally, but yeah, why do you think that is?
Well, the first thing that came to my mind actually from when they were all worried about the transition over to talkies, and that whole fear about suddenly our entire sort of industry is going to get turned on its head makes me think a lot about like what marketers have to deal with now with like artificial intelligence. It's the whole like, oh crap, is my job at risk, or is something else going to do the work for me, or am I going to be found out to be not as good as I thought I was? And I think that in some ways that in a weird way felt more relevant now. But I think overall, just anytime your job changes or the environment that you're in that you feel comfortable in changes, and suddenly you question whether you're as good as you thought you were, or the people you work with are going through that question, I think that's relevant to anybody. And also just sort of like that competition to try and be better and feel like somebody else is dubbing over your stuff, or that whole dynamic I think is still very relevant. Yeah, but if you want to step back and not look at it as like a introspection of anything in particular, I think it's just a lot of fun as a storyline. Between the lightheartedness and the characters and the dancing, I think could be relevant in any age. So
I think, yes, by today's like right now, that's a good analogy, but I think you could walk that back at so many different turning points in the entertainment industry. You think about streaming, right, as a platform and all of the changes that have come with that, good, the bad, and the ugly, and how that has shifted the landscape on like what gets made, does it stick around? Like there's a lot of changes that happen rapidly, even within that industry. And then before that, home video, right? Like home video was revelatory because prior to that, if you wanted to see a film, you had to catch it like at some sort of revival, or like it's hitting back the theaters for a week or two, or your local cinema is just happening to show it. So it was harder to study these things, number one, but even to enjoy them on your own terms. So I think I like that you're like how you kind of draw those lines, Will, of like it's a relevant topic, even if like talkies to sound is not something that most people alive today are going to like remember or know much about. The idea of are you still going to have a place in this new world as something's changing around you is something that's pretty universal. So good insight, man.
Well, I think for me it's two things. One is that like basically to copy what Will said, but to build on it slightly, like the antagonist here, the enemy here isn't like a like I don't know, contemporaneous villain. It is like time and change itself, really. And that's always going to be relatable, right? At any point in time. And like the struggle, the tension is like, can you adapt as a person and as a performer? And again, that is always relatable kind of within Hollywood, but also just regardless of your profession. The other thing is the like dialogue interactions like do feel like surprisingly modern. Like I mentioned, the humor is kind of like dark and edgy at times in a way that you wouldn't expect necessarily for like the 1950s. So I don't know why that is, but I think it does help it hold up now. And just the fact that like while this is a very like white film, the humor and like relationship dynamics don't necessarily hinge on stereotype or like traditional roles all that much, which I think also helps it hold up now.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it doesn't follow a formula to the extent that it probably seems like it would if you just were to tell somebody, oh, go watch Singin' in the Rain, right? Like, yes, you have your love interests and things like that, but beyond even the romantic aspect, I think it has a very unique structure. It feels like its own thing. And
he is the angel that drops out of the sky into her car.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Little callback, I think, to Two of a Kind. Yeah.
Yay,
Yeah.
yeah.
And he's the damsel in distress. She has to save him.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like even like on a surface level, so you mentioned the singing and the dancing and like the numbers and everything. I think like Sometimes what you need is just a big heaping dose of like wholesome, and it's nice that despite the subject matter, it's not a very cynical film, and I think people respond well to that. Often it's not always what we're in the mood for, but it is a nice bit of comfort food to have and go back to. But I think like overall, if I were to point to like the easiest thing is the craftsmanship of it, like even if let's say somebody disagreed about like the dialogue or whatever, I think the craftsmanship of this movie is so undeniable that even if you can only appreciate it on a surface level of the dancing and the sets and everything else, like you'd be hard pressed to make an argument that it doesn't work on that level. And I think pretty easy to admire it, if that's the only thing that you feel like it has going for it. So but of course it's so much more than that. Like I said, for me, like the Chris box that it ticks is like it's about old Hollywood, it's sort of self-referential, like it really just it ticks a lot of boxes, which is probably no surprise why it's my favorite traditional Hollywood musical, as opposed to say something like Oklahoma, which like if I never saw again, like it wouldn't be soon enough. You know what I mean? Like sorry mom, I love you, I know you watch this sometimes, I know it's like one of your favorites, but it doesn't do anything for me. But all right. Anything to add about Singing in the Rain before we move on to our game?
I would just like to say I do think Lena is like a little unfairly villainized.
Mm.
I'm not usually an apologist for the shitty people in the films we watch. Sometimes I am, but I do feel like I'm sympathetic to her just because her situation was kind of I am going to lose my career, my livelihood, desperation move, and more than greed. She got greedy at the end, but a lot of it was just her acting out of desperation.
Agree with that. It makes it still hard to swallow though, because like you get her like that opening sequence where she doesn't want to give Don Lockwood the time of day until like, oh, you're going to be the star of the next picture, and then she's like, oh, okay, what's up, buddy?
Oh yeah, she's very clearly always like a social climber. Like,
but I do feel where you're coming from as well.
Yeah.
I also feel like everyone's a little unfair to her, like getting used to the new technology. It's like no one's ever done this shit before. Like you didn't even know what this thing was a week ago. Like shut the fuck up and have a little grace for somebody who's getting used to a completely new way of making movies. So I feel for her in that moment. It's funny, it's played for laughs, but like this would be a hard thing to adapt to.
And you gotta admire her relentless positivity after the failed screening. She's like, I loved it.
Nice. Yeah.
So speaking of Singing in the Rain, the trivia game that I have prepared for you today is a very special over under version of Singing in the Rain. I have a tiebreaker and a tiebreaker if we need them. So I am going to present you with a fact about Singing in the Rain and a figure, and you're going to tell me if the real answer is higher, lower, or exactly the same. So your first one is the budget of Singing in the Rain was $2 million. Is it higher, lower, or exactly the same?
These are 1950s dollars.
Yes, no adjustments here.
I'm going to say higher.
Okay.
I'm going to say exactly the same.
May gets a point. It is
nice.
2.5 million was the budget.
Oh, close.
Well, the last time we talked about an old movie budget, I think it was either
Troll. No, I'm kidding. It's not that old.
I don't know, but I was thinking like something in the 1 to 3 million like wouldn't be outrageous, especially for a film where like he crashes an airplane and a bunch of other stuff at the very start. And I'm like, that's got to rack up a bill if nothing else.
Yeah. Yep. Well, so that's 1 point for May.
Christopher Nolan. Yeah.
Yeah. No kidding. So 1 point for May, nothing for Will. That's okay. We got several more to go. Your next fact is the number of takes to successfully execute the couch stunt in Good Morning. So where they all just go over and it falls nice and neat. 40 takes. 40.
I'm gonna say less. Fewer.
I'm going to say exactly the same.
Once again, May gets a point.
Noise.
It is
Yay.
exactly 40 takes to
Exactly.
achieve
Wow.
that stunt.
I think earlier you were talking
Hmm.
about another stunt that was 40 takes, and I think you might have let that one slip.
Did I? Okay. I'll have to go back and bleep it out if I did.
Editor Chris, verify this if it's true or
Yeah.
not.
I will. All right. Nice job. Your next fact. The length of Sid Charisse's veil in the Broadway ballet sequence, the Windy Gusby thing, 60 feet.
Less.
Yeah, I'm gonna say less.
You both get a point. It is
Nice.
actually 50 feet. So still pretty goddamn long, but not quite 60 feet. So nicely done.
Longer than I'd expect. The camera
There's
angle
some-
definitely looked like it was tricking me, though. So.
Yeah. Apparently it was so long that it would occasionally start to pull her off balance, as you can imagine. Like it's a very delicate thing that they're doing. So, and she looks to be rather petite. So, yeah. All right. Here's your next figure. The Rotten Tomatoes score, 90%, 90, higher or lower, or right on.
Higher.
I'm gonna have to say right on.
May is on fire. It is
Nice.
100%. It is higher.
Whoa.
It is one of the few films to have a perfect Rotten Tomato 100% score.
I will admit, I always look at the Rotten Tomato score for the films that we watch. I'm just
See how far
curious.
astray we're leading you.
Yes, actually.
Oh, God.
See what suffering you've lined up for me.
All right. Your final number, and I'll do the tiebreakers just for fun since we have them, but your final number, the number of original songs, so the songs that they wrote for the film, 4. Is it higher or lower than 4?
I'm gonna say lower.
I'm going to say exactly 4.
Will gets a point on this one. It is lower. It is actually only 2 original songs. Make 'Em Laugh and Moses Supposes are the only 2 original songs made for the film.
I'd be so surprised if Moses Supposes was a previously made song.
Yeah. That would be great.
It's going to be my next karaoke pick, I think.
Nice.
Moses Supposes. So that puts May at 4 points, Will at 2. Well played, both of you.
Good game, Rutandi.
It was.
Now, for funsies, the tiebreakers that I had, since I went through all the trouble of, the whopping 5 minutes it took me to do this. Debbie Reynolds was 19 years old when she made this film. Her famous actress daughter, Carrie Fisher, was she younger, older, or the same age when she made Star Wars: A New Hope in 1977?
Older.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with older.
It's actually the same age. She was 19 years old.
I thought it was going to be like 20, 21.
Oh, she was 19. All right. The other tiebreaker that I have. So my favorite musical number, Broadway ballet, was the budget higher or lower than $500,000?
Higher.
I'm gonna say lower because that's a quarter of the film budget, basically.
It is actually higher. $600,000 was the budget for that sequence.
Well
So
done,
Broadway
Will. See,
ballet.
now we're tied.
Oh yeah. Nice.
Well, very good. Hopefully that was a fun way to do that game. Give you some more trivia and facts around some interesting figures I came across while I was researching. And that brings us to drawing our next quest. So let me go ahead and switch over our view. And as per usual, since I have had 3 nominations in a row, if I were to draw another card, we will throw it back in the pile and draw a different one to give poor Waterman a break here. So let's have a shuffle. Extra shuffle. Extra shuffle. Extra shuffle. And we are going to draw. So this is a new category that is called Against My Better Judgment. So this is going to be a film that somebody, for one reason or another, has not either finished or watched. So let me see what that film is going to be. And if it's one of mine, we'll throw it back in the pile. And obviously edit this out so our audience doesn't get the sneak peek here. The Against My Better Judgment film is going to be a Will pick, and it is Vice. So we are going to be watching Vice, which forgive your, I should say, correct me if I'm wrong, is the Christian Bale film about Dick Cheney. Is that right?
Yes.
Show is.
Okay.
I've actually
I have
seen
only
this
seen
one.
W. Oh yeah? How is it?
I thought it was really good. I think it's an Adam McKay film, right?
Maybe.
The same guy that made Don't Look Up, right? If that's same director.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, it is Adam McKay. All right. Yeah, no, I thought it was really good. I don't like Dick Cheney, so I guess if you like Dick Cheney, you wouldn't like the film, but
Fair enough. So give us some context before we, go into like watching this for the next episode, Will. What is the hesitation, or like, the category could be a movie that either you're hesitant to watch or like started to watch but didn't finish. So like, why did you select it for this category?
So originally it was because, well, the reason that I wanted to watch it was because I am fascinated by Christian Bale's attempt at like transforming his body every time he wants to do certain roles. And like when he did The Machinist, and I was just like absolutely shocked at how thin he got. And then it was like, then he wanted to bulk up and be Batman. And then he wanted to build out and be Dick Cheney. And I was like, this man is just like becoming these people. And I'm so like fascinated by this. And then listening to him in the trailer, I thought, man, this is going to be really weird, but I kind of want to experience it. And so I started watching it, and I really enjoyed it for him. But there was I think I couldn't distance myself far enough from the source material to like not get pissed off at the movie halfway through. And just what was going on, and just feeling like way too politically triggered. And so I was like, I think I'm done. So as much as I love Sam Rockwell and how he was doing, and Christian Bale for his part in particular, I had to shut it down, and I just never went back to it. I think if I could detach myself from politics, I probably appreciate it for what it is. But I think that ultimately I couldn't at the time, and I was just never in a good state of mind to go back and do it before. So this seemed like a great opportunity to go back and get some more feelings out there and just deal with my trauma. So
it's the old adage now, if you don't like it, is you have no one to blame but yourself, like literally. So
it's true.
Hopefully you have better luck the second time around.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch it. It was in some contention during one of the Academy Awards. I'm not sure exactly how old this is, but I feel like a few years ago, like this was in the circulation for some stuff, right? Am I just misremembering that? Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it was. Yeah.
Yeah,
Great.
I feel like I have the benefit of since I'm slightly younger than both of you, I don't really remember 9/11, and that's the time setting for most of Vice. So it's not triggering for me at all. I'm like learning stuff for the first time sometimes.
Yeah. Yep. We know many people, including my wife, who went off to war because of the events, of that time period. So
Yeah.
yep. That's all I'll say. I'll keep it mostly apolitical on the podcast. But anyway, thank you as always for listening, watching, and hopefully enjoying the podcast. I know I said I was going to put the Google form. I totally forgot to do that on the last one. So I'll go back and retroactively put that in the description. But I promise we will post it on Twitter. It will go into the video descriptions going forward, because we'd like to hear from you. Like, what's a movie that you want us to watch and talk about, in what context? Do you have a side quest for us? All that would be really, really cool. And we'd like to have more guests on. So if your film gets pulled and you want to be a guest, click that yes mark and we will reach out to you to let you know, and hopefully you can join us for an episode. Until next time, you can find us on Twitter at ScreenQuestPod. It's been a pleasure. Hope both of you have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
And I can't stand him.
And I can't stand him.
And I can't